Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome. You're listening to Perfectly Healthy and Toned Radio with your host, Darren Fatman McDuffie. And now, prepare to get fat. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Perfectly Healthy and Toned Radio. I'm your host, Darren Fatman McDuffie, and this episode is being brought to you by I'mTheFatMan.com. And that's going to change pretty soon. I'm actually going to be doing a new website at some time and kind of morphing everything over, so I'll probably be changing that in the near future, so just get ready for that. Took a week off. Actually, last week was my spring break. Everybody here, I'm in South Florida, and it seems like everybody here converged on the beach. I had to go to a meeting on the beach last weekend and couldn't even find a place to park. There were so many people. Things are starting to get warm here, and more people are starting to be out on the beach. So things are changing. Summer's coming. Things are looking alive in Florida here. So it's going to start getting hot. It's already hot here. We only have maybe one season. We have 2 weeks of winter sometimes, and then we get into what I call summer. And those are the only two contrasts that we have here. But I'm not complaining. I live in paradise. And I know that a lot of you out there envy me, so I'm not complaining at all. But like I said, I took that week off to rejuvenate, to refresh. Sometimes you need that, and I'm refreshed, ready to go. Power Pack May coming up. We have a lot of good guests. One of them starting off tonight. The first guest for May is Dr. Judine Benoit, and we'll be talking about cavities. But before we get into that, I just wanted to read her bio real quickly, and hopefully I'm pronouncing the city right. But Dr. Judine Benoit is a dentist in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. She's passionate about helping people improve their teeth and their lives using simple, natural techniques. Dr. Judine uses a blended approach to dentistry, combining information taught in the dental school and research from scientific dental journals with her love of whole food and whole person holistic thinking to get real results and great success. Dr. Judine Benoit, welcome to Perfectly Healthy and Toned Radio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Is St. Catharines up near, is that near Toronto, or what area is that near?
Yeah, it's near Niagara Falls and like an hour from Toronto.
Oh, great. Yeah, in one of my past careers, I had Canada as a territory, and I was selling, at the time I was selling electronic ticket automation for police officers, and I dealt with the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, and actually got a chance to travel up to Canada on a couple of occasions. So I know a little bit about Canada, I should say. But great to have you tonight on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The obligatory question is, how did you get into dentistry? Did you fall into this? Did you come into this from some type of health crisis? Because that's usually what happens. But give us a little bit of your background and how you actually got into dentistry.
Okay. Well, I've wanted to be a dentist all my life. My dad is a dentist, and so I grew up saying I wanted to help people and help them have healthy teeth. So I went into dentistry, and everything, I was like super conventional. I don't even think I even uttered the word holistic or natural or anything like that. So I went into it like from a totally conventional standpoint. But then through a series of health problems, like actually my dog, I always say my dog saved my life because she had some health problems, and I started looking into things like why did she have these health problems, and then I was just opened up to a whole new world of food. Food matters, and just the whole natural world was opened up to me. And then I had no idea that the type of dentistry that my dad was and is still doing and that I was exposed to every single day of my working life was different, because I wrote about this in my book, but it's the very beginning of my book, so I'll just say it again now, that I was listening to like a popular health and wellness expert on YouTube, and he was talking about his tooth that healed and he didn't end up needing a filling, and the audience went wild and they were like cheering, and I was like, what? Like, what's odd? Like, why are they cheering so much? Like, I just had no idea that people didn't realize teeth can heal, and not all cavities need to be filled, that cavities can arrest or remineralize or heal or whatever you want to call it. I did not realize people didn't know that, and that was something I was exposed to every single day of my life, of my working life. So I just set out to help people become aware of that and to do it naturally.
Yeah, so you're actually talking to someone who is not aware of that. Coming from, where I came from and growing up, I had a lot of cavities, as I would imagine a lot of kids have, and I had no idea because I was always exposed to that drill and fill method. And I'm wondering, because of your dad, is that why you went this way, or were you ever exposed in dental school to that drill and fill method, and what made you want to start working with people without that same philosophy of getting people in, getting them x-rayed, finding out they have cavities, you drill and you fill it with amalgams. But what actually got you on that pathway to, was it just because you were exposed to this at a very early time in your life?
Like my dad, he's conventional in very many ways, but very unconventional. I didn't even realize that he was unconventional until like I said, I heard, people talking about this and not realizing that like I just didn't realize that every dental office didn't help people arrest their cavities, because that's what my dad does. And he's from like this middle of nowhere in northern Ontario, Canada, and he just had a different viewpoint. It's more like an old-fashioned type of dentistry, I say, where you promote cavities to arrest, as opposed to the more modern approach these days tends to be like minimally invasive dentistry, which is great for some things. Like, not everybody is into healing their teeth, so minimally invasive dentistry is great for some people, where they get a small filling as opposed to waiting for it to become a big filling. But on the other side of things, you can actually heal the cavity so you don't even need a filling in the first place. So that's what I have been exposed to because of my dad, and I just have been lucky to see that it's possible. I mean, we learn about it in school. Like, it's in my dental school textbooks. I mean, it's not this weird thing. Like, it's in the textbooks, and we learn about arresting cavities or remineralizing them or healing them. Dentists don't say healing them. The proper dental terms are arrest and remineralize. But yeah, I've been lucky to see some huge areas remineralized. My dad sees some, like, a different sort of population, like, homeless people and recovering drug addicts, like all sorts of different people. And so because of that, I've been able to see that just remarkable things, like the body can heal. Like, it's really, truly amazing. And so, yeah, like, this isn't just, like, in theory for me. I've seen it, and I feel very confident because I've seen it with my own two eyes so many times, over and over and over again.
Yeah, so I actually, doing the research for this, just went on your website. I was looking for whatever I could find on you. I went to YouTube, a lot of different places, and just reading your website, I noticed that you don't do any fillings at all. No amalgams at all. Is that right?
Yeah, that's just because I'm not passionate about it. Like fillings do need to be done. Like I'm not saying that nobody needs a filling, but what I am saying is that I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the fillings out there don't need to be done.
Wow.
They can be healed. They can be remineralized. That's what I'm saying. And for the people who want to do that, not everybody, but for the people who want to, I want to help them do that.
Yeah. Now, you are obviously unconventional, and your dad is obviously unconventional. And when people are unconventional, there tends to be, some sort of backlash. Have you received any backlash from what I would call the drill and fill dental community?
Yeah. Like several years ago, I wrote, and it's partly me. It's been a whole learning experience for me as well, like even emotionally. But yeah, a few years ago, I came out, like mouthy and sassy, and I was just, I was different. I was kind of mouthy and sassy. I'm not even like that anymore. But yeah, so like this controversial blog post came out, and I was talking about minimally invasive dentistry, and it got some dentists real upset. But you know what? It was a great learning opportunity for me because I learned a lot, and actually it was before I wrote my book. And what they were saying to me, like, the questions that they were saying, I was like, oh, that's a great thing. I'm going to write about that. I'm going to find the research for that and put it in my book. So it was a good learning experience. But I haven't really had much backlash since. I do have the attitude now where it's like, they're not bad, and I'm not bad. I'm not right. They're not wrong. Like there's many right ways to approach this, and people have to find the right way for them. For some people, like I've even told some people, at this cavity, I've even told some people, like, you have an arrested cavity in your mouth. Like, you do not need a filling for this cavity. And they're like, you know what? I just want to get it filled. I don't even want to think about. I just fill it. I'm like, okay. And not everyone is into it. So there's a lid for every pot.
Yeah. I wanted to get into that terminology of arrested, and I believe it's active a little bit later on, but I wanted to kind of go back to the foundation, because when I was in grade school, we always had the day when we would come in and they would have the dentist in, and the dentist would see us or visit our classroom, and they would give out the little toothbrushes. They would always give us a little tube of Crest toothpaste, and then they would give us these little tablets that you would put in your mouth, and you would chew them up, and they were supposed to tell you where the plaque is in your mouth. But now it seems like things are changing. We were always brought up to use the toothpaste, to use Crest. And what you're seeing now is, even when I talk to some of our friends, a lot of people are discovering things like coconut oil. I brush my teeth with soap. I quit actually brushing my teeth with toothpaste, just simply because when I used to do that, I would have this film on my teeth, and it just never felt like my teeth were clean. It just was this gritty film. So I'm wondering, to start off, to even prevent cavities, what are your opinions about oil pulling? What are your opinions about using something like a Sonicare toothbrush versus a conventional toothbrush? And I'll think of something else to ask you, but I wanted to get to those two questions first.
Yeah, I think those things that you mentioned are great. They're great options. You don't have to do oil pulling. You don't have to use certain types of toothbrushes. But a lot of people have great success with oil pulling, and have great success with certain types of toothbrushes, certain types of toothpaste. So if it's working, then go for it. But a major thing that I talk about is preventing cavities can be looked at in two steps. So the inside factors and the outside factors. So things that affect teeth from the inside and things that affect teeth from the outside. And like brushing your teeth with whatever you're brushing with, whatever kind of toothpaste, whatever kind of toothbrush, using mouthwashes of any sort, oil pulling, all these things affect teeth from the outside, and that's an important aspect to deal with. I do think that people don't really focus so much on the inside aspect. It's kind of like this forgotten, hugely important aspect, which I like to focus on. That's more of my passion. A lot of people ask me about oil pulling. Like all the time I get asked about oil pulling. I don't even know if there exists like the research out there on it. The research that I do know is that like coconut oil has been shown to reduce levels of Streptococcus mutans, which is the bacteria that's associated with causing cavities. So certainly having coconut oil spend some time in your mouth is going to be good for that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I do it every morning, and I'm noticing, the effects of my teeth are wider. My mouth just feels better. And for the audience out there, I don't brush my teeth with regular soap. I brush it with Castile soap, and it was something I read in a book not long ago. So don't go out there and get a bar of Shield soap and brush your teeth with it. It has to be Castile soap. Speaking about the outside of the tooth, the inside of the tooth, and how things get started, when it comes to our enamel, obviously the tooth has to be broken down on the outside first through the enamel. One of the things that comes up, people who drink coffee, I've been chastised on Facebook for saying I normally drink water with lemon in it in the mornings. And one of the things that someone came to me is that the lemon can start breaking down your enamel, which I haven't found, and I've been doing this for years. But what are your opinions on things like coffee, things like putting lemon in water, or just what I would call acidic foods, and how do they break down the enamel on the tooth?
Yeah, so I do want to go back to, so I do want to, after I talk about the acidity, I want to just mention that it's not the first thing that happens when you get a cavity. The outside is not the first thing that happens. So I'll get back to that. But
okay.
In terms of the acidity of foods, yes, that's definitely important. So whenever teeth are in an environment that's acidic, so under pH 7 is neutral. So anything below that is acidic. There's going to be demineralization occurring, so the removal of minerals from the tooth, which is not what you want. We want remineralization, the putting minerals back into the tooth. That can't happen in acidic mouths. So, people always want to know, like, is lemon water acidic, or is my favorite beverage or food acidic? And the best way to know is to test your mouth. Everybody responds differently. So you can test, like, certainly lemons are acidic, or whatever food or drink. Like, you can test the actual food or drink, and it'll be acidic. But how it behaves inside someone's mouth is going to vary drastically from person to person. Like, everybody has different buffering abilities of their saliva. So, like, the ability of their saliva to neutralize an acid. So all you got to do is just check your mouth. So after you drink lemon water or something acidic, you could just check your mouth pH. You can buy pH paper and check your mouth pH. And for some people, it is going to be acidic, and that is correct. Like, drinking lemon water can be demineralizing to some people's mouths. If it's going to remain acidic in their mouth, then they don't have to stop drinking it, but they just have to do something to neutralize their mouth. I say, like, manually neutralize their mouth. So you could drink, water or something like alkaline, like some sort of green, like chlorophyll drops or something like that that's alkaline to neutralize their mouth after they drink like their healthy acidic drink. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying is it's a thing where it's an individual thing. And like I said, I've been doing this for years and haven't really noticed any effects. I just got my teeth checked not long ago and I didn't have any cavities. And speaking of cavities and going back, as an adult, it seems like I've gotten better. Like when I go to get a checkup, there are no cavities. But as a child, I had more cavities than not. And I'm wondering, as we get older, is it less likely that we'll get cavities than when we're younger? Is it just a difference when we're younger versus we're older, or you get cavities? Or have you seen in your practice and people that you're working with that cavities come at any age?
Oh, cavities can definitely come to some unlucky adults, for sure. But you're right. Children are more susceptible to cavities. And yeah, that is correct. Oh, and I also wanted to talk about like the inside factors. So when you say that you're no longer getting cavities, that could be yes, just because like adults don't get as many cavities as children, but it could also be because your health has improved as well. So cavities are caused by the bacteria that are associated with cavities, like I mentioned, Streptococcus mutans, plus a susceptible tooth. So that's straight from my dental school textbook, and that's a huge thing that most people don't realize. So they just focus on brushing their teeth, and even, dentists and hygienists promote it. Like they say, oh, if you're going to eat something sugary, just brush your teeth after. But they're forgetting about that critical other half of the equation. So the cavity-causing bacteria plus a susceptible tooth equals a cavity. So you can have lots of the cavity-causing bacteria, but if you don't have a susceptible tooth, you're not going to get a cavity. And it's like if you're on an airplane and someone sneezes, a whole bunch of people are exposed to the bacteria or the virus, but only some people are going to get sick. So it's the same thing, like, many people are exposed to the virus or bacteria, but the susceptible individuals are the ones that get sick. And it's the same with our teeth.
How important is it for our gum health? Does our gum health have anything to do with the susceptibility to cavities?
Gum health. That's an interesting question. Well, I would say yes, in that it is all... there's like a systemic component to cavities and to gum disease. So yes, like if you're having, systemic inflammation and it's causing problems like, whatever problems inflammation can cause in the rest of your body, and also gum disease, then yes, that's going to be a more susceptible individual to any problem, including cavities as well.
How?
Because,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because of the systemic component. That's what I love. That's what I love bringing to awareness for people, is that teeth and our gums and our mouth, everything in our mouth is very closely linked with our systemic health. Like, there's literally blood inside our teeth. Like, people tend to think of teeth as these solid blocks that are kind of separate from our body, and they're totally not. There's literally blood. Like, if you drill through a tooth, it starts bleeding. There's blood inside teeth, so they're very closely linked with the rest of our body. So anything that's off or not ideal in the body is going to affect our teeth as well.
Yeah, I believe that. I listened to an interview, I think it was like 2 years ago, and can't remember who the person was that was speaking, but they were saying that they were working with people with just infections under the gum or under the tooth, and those infections were linked to conditions like cancer. And if they were able to clear up those conditions under the tooth, then the people were less likely to have any type of illness outside of that. So I believe that wholeheartedly. Getting back to talking about cavities, the inside, the outside of the tooth, and you mentioned some terminology, and I know that the audience is wondering what you mean by arrested and active. So talk a little bit about those terms and give us a definition so the audience can understand that.
Okay, sure. So a cavity is not necessarily bad. A cavity can be, and everybody thinks, when they think of a cavity, they're like, oh, bad. But a cavity is either active, in which case, yes, it's bad, because an active cavity is progressing and continual demineralization or the removal of minerals from the tooth is happening. That cavity is growing. So that's an active cavity. Cavities can also be arrested, and an arrested cavity is not a problem at all. It does not need a filling. Never, ever. An arrested cavity never, ever needs a filling. It is what people call a healed cavity. Like I said, that's not a proper dental term, but that's essentially what it means, a healed cavity, an arrested cavity. So it's rock hard. It's not soft. It's not progressing. And it's as equal or even less likely to become another cavity as the rest of our teeth. So like it's even more resistant to further decay. So it's a really great thing. Arrested cavities or arrested decay, it's a really awesome thing. And so another thing I just want to clarify, a lot of people think like when a tooth heals or arrests, a cavity arrests, they think that the tooth grows back, but it doesn't. It doesn't need to. Like it really doesn't need to. Like I see it all the time. People will come in and they're like, I'm really working on remineralizing my cavity and it's just not working. And I'm like, you know what? It is. Like it's rock hard. It's healed. Like celebrate. And they're like, what? They don't understand because they think that the tooth grows back, but it does not grow back. So I say it's like a finger. So let's just say you accidentally cut your fingertip off. When your finger heals, the skin grows back. It's not bleeding. It's not at risk. It's not going to get infected. It's functioning like normal, but the fingertip does not grow back. That's a healed finger, and it's functioning, and but it's doing well. And that's the same with the cavity.
Yeah, that's understandable. Dr. Benoit, I'm going to ask you this. How do we know that? How are we supposed to know if it's arrested or active, especially when you're at the dentist and they come to you with this x-ray? Because, I've been in the dentist and they've actually put my x-rays up there on the, I don't know what they call it, what you can see it there. And I don't know what's active. I don't know what arrested, but I know that they just come in and say, hey, you have 2 cavities and we need to fill them. Should we just take some time off when they come to us? So my dentist comes to me and says, hey, we need to fill this. Should I say, you know what, let me wait 2 or 3 months and then come back and do another x-ray? How do I know?
You got it.
And how much is this based upon perception? Because I'll be honest with you, I have a bad taste in my mouth with dentists because I went to a dentist that I've been going to for a number of years, and they changed it to more like corporate dentistry. And I went and they told me that I needed $2,000 worth of work. And when I went to a friend of mine who happens to be a dentist, she told me that I didn't need to do any of that. And basically she brought me in, she cleaned my teeth, and she said, everything looks good to me, and she's a dentist. So I'm just wondering for those people out there, how can we kind of safeguard ourselves to where we're not hooping money out of the window, as what my mom used to say, and kind of protect ourselves or become an educated an educated patient, educated consumer. And I know that's a lot, but you can kind of break that up as much as you want.
Yeah. First of all, I want people to realize that a diagnosis from a dentist or a medical doctor or a naturopathic doctor or anyone, a diagnosis is not black and white. There is a lot of thought that goes into it. Well, hopefully a lot of thought. But there is an opinion that goes with it. It's not, when someone makes a diagnosis, it is not like a cookbook, like step by step, like check up, like this is the answer and this is the only answer. A diagnosis does carry with it a heavy amount of opinion and thought from the person making the diagnosis. And diagnosing cavities is not simple. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into it. Often, like sometimes it's simple, but really there is a lot of thought that should go into it. It's not like this simple thing. So I do encourage people to get second opinions. That's like even, I'm sure in the States it's the same. And the Canadian Dental Association does support people, like encourage people to get second opinions because if you don't feel comfortable, then you shouldn't proceed. You should, get a second opinion. So I just want to say that. And then also when it comes to diagnosing cavities, in an X-ray, so an X-ray will not show any difference between an active cavity and an arrested cavity. So this is where it becomes, there's a lot of thought that has to go into this. And sometimes just this day, like today, this day and age, people are not so focused on it, in my opinion. But the proper way to diagnose a cavity, right? This is straight from my dental school textbook. Mm-hmm. When an X-ray or when a cavity is seen in an X-ray, like I'm talking a little cavity is caught. I'm not talking like someone is gone for 30 years and then there's half their tooth is gone or whatever. I'm talking normal, like routine dentistry. When a cavity is seen in an X-ray, the next step, according to my dental school textbook, is that it should be tried to be remineralized for 3 months and then reassessed. Mm-hmm. And that's what I recommend to people who are interested in remineralizing their cavities. If they're not, if they're like, this is just not the right time in my life, I'm too busy, blah, 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 then get it filled. But if you're interested in remineralizing your cavities, then and there's a cavity that's seen in an X-ray, there is no way to tell whether that is arrested and not progressing or if it is active, except through monitoring it. So if there's a little cavity, what you do is you say, I want to work at remineralizing it, and then you go home and you do all the stuff like internal and external techniques for remineralizing, and then in 3 months' time, you have it reassessed, usually through more X-rays, which sucks to have more radiation. There is a really cool like scanner out there now, which is not in very many dental offices, but there is the technology is coming for alternatives to X-rays. But most dental offices, it's an X-ray that you're going to have to reassess it. And if it has grown, then it's progressing, and that's not good. It's not arrested. And then you can think about it. If it's at low risk of causing any problems, then you might say, okay, I want to work at remineralizing it again for 3 months. Mm-hmm. If it's a bigger cavity and there's risk of it causing issues, then you might say, okay, I want to just get this filled now. If the cavity has not grown in size, then you can celebrate, and it's either arrested or it's a very slowly moving cavity. And then it should always be monitored to make sure it doesn't get out of control and grow and do something bad. But yeah, so that's the approach that I recommend for dealing with cavities that are seen only in X-rays.
Yeah. And I see some people in the switchboard. If you have a question, just hit 1 on your keypad, and I'll bring you on if you have a question for Dr. Jadine. Talking about that, I'm thinking while you're answering the question, a thought came to my head that conventional doctors, they won't even know about this. So I'm wondering if it's more important for me to go to a holistic dentist than to a conventional doctor, because if I go to a conventional doctor and I'm like, oh, I want to chill out and wait for 3 months to remineralize this, they're going to look at me like I'm a nutcase. So I'm wondering if it's advantageous for me to seek out a holistic dentist versus the conventional dentist. What are your thoughts on that?
It all depends on the dentist.
Yeah.
Because I know some people who have come to me or talk to me, and they say they've been to holistic dentists who are like totally not into arrested decay, or they're not interested in helping people remineralize their teeth, and some are. And then also some conventional dentists, like some people tell me, they're like, you know what, my conventional dentist, he or she does not overtreat. They're really into monitoring these cavities, and so it really depends. But yeah, like very often these days, you're gonna have the dentist and the hygienist look at you like you're crazy. But I, honestly, that's why when I wrote my book, I made sure I put so much documenting from my dental school textbooks. Like, this stuff is not weird. It's straight from dental school textbooks. What can be considered weird, which, I mean, I don't think it's weird, I'm sure you don't, but some people can consider it weird, which is not in the dental school textbooks, is like how to go about remineralizing your cavities. Like, I mean, most dentists talk about fluoride, right? Mm-hmm. Most dentists and hygienists talk about fluoride. So, we talk about alternatives to fluoride, like natural techniques. So that stuff is not in dental school textbooks. But the actual concept of it is absolutely a conventional idea, a conventional concept.
Yeah, let's actually get into that, because that was going to be my next question about how to remineralize. Because when you're talking about remineralization, it's like, okay, how do I do this? And well, take that first, and then I have another question for you after that. But how do you actually start that remineralization process?
Okay, well, that's like the inside and the outside approach. So that's what, like, there's so many different things you can do, and the more you do, the better. So the more external things that you do, like checking your pH, making sure that you're not going around all day with an acidic mouth, keeping your teeth clean. Like, everybody's really good at doing that these days. Everyone generally keeps their teeth clean. But there's other things you can do, like oral probiotics, things like that. And then making sure your saliva is plentiful, because saliva is very beneficial. And, so those are external things that you can do. And then the internal things, that's all the stuff systemically that you can do. I mean, just generally speaking, just making sure that you're in good health, and then more specifically speaking, like making sure you have enough antioxidants in your body, minerals, like having balanced minerals, and not having deficiencies.
I was going to ask you about that, because you and I have a mutual friend, and I know that this mutual friend is really into the hair analysis and checking your mineral and vitamin levels. So that's really important as well, to make sure that you have the right amount of nutrients in your body, because what I'm understanding from this interview is that your mouth, your teeth are just a reflection of kind of what's going on within your body. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I always say that teeth are a great opportunity to see what's going on in your body. Like if you're having dental problems, cavities are not just the only thing. Especially like we said, adults don't get a lot of cavities, but they do get a lot of other problems. Like there's gum disease, and there's cracking teeth, like chipped teeth, cracked teeth, teeth that like pulpitis, which is inflammation of the pulp, which you need a root canal for or an extraction. These are all problems that can be seen in the mouth, and it's an opportunity to know that there's something systemically off, and our bodies give us the opportunity to fix it before as much as it sucks that it's a tooth that you need a filling for or whatever you have a problem with, but at least it's a tooth and not an organ, but it is showing that there is systemic issues when you have dental problems.
Yeah. I had Dr. Kayla T. Daniel on the show, maybe I think that was last year, towards the end of last year, and we were talking about fermented cod liver oil. And I know that that's one of the things that is recommended a lot of times to help with mineral content. How important is that when it comes to your teeth? Is that something that you have to have? Can you skip the fermented cod liver oil, or is it beneficial? What is your view on that?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people have great success with fermented cod liver oil. I'm not like a stickler on it being like a specific type of cod liver oil, but a lot of people are deficient in vitamin A, and cod liver oil is going to be good for providing that. So, yeah, deficiency in vitamin A is going to lead to dental problems, and cod liver oil is a great way to get that.
Yeah. How far can we let this thing go before let's say you get a cavity, it becomes active, and how far can you let it go active before you give up hope and say, I can never get this arrested again?
That's a great question. And that it depends on the tooth or the cavity size and the cavity location. In my book, I have this chart that you give it gives certain points to is the cavity in between your teeth? Is the cavity on the top of the biting surface? Like, it depends on where the cavity is located and the size of it. So just generally speaking, the bigger the cavity, the more difficult it is to remineralize. And also the less access to saliva, the more challenging to remineralize. So the most difficult cavity there is, which I would say, people should just get a filling for. Like, I hate saying anything's impossible, but this is probably the closest thing to it, would be a very large cavity that has no access to the saliva. It's like strictly between the teeth. So that would be a very challenging one. But very large cavities that have access to saliva can be remineralized, and that's what I mean by, like, I've seen that, and I feel very fortunate to be able to have seen that, because not every dental office has people with that in their mouth to see, like, completely arrested cavities that are huge. That is possible. But at the same time, I don't want to give people false hope. Like, you got to take care, you got to make sure you're not putting your teeth at risk as well. So ideally, cavities should be monitored to make sure that you're not running into any problems.
Yeah. I want to get to really two more questions. And Doing this process, and I know when I was a kid growing up, it seems like I put my mom through hell because I have a sister as well, and I think we pretty much put up my mom through hell because every time we went to the dentist, we had cavities to fill, and I know that there's a lot of parents who will probably be listening to the show, and you've given some good points, but when it comes to kids, how concerned should a parent be? When you go in there and the dentist is coming to you and saying, hey, well, we found, Jimmy has 4 cavities in his mouth, and they're going to want to obviously fill those. What should a parent do? I know we talked about maybe waiting 2 to 3 months, but a lot of times when parents tend to get nervous and uptight, what would be your strategy for a parent who's out there who may have a kid and they go into the dentist and they find out that their kid has 3 to 4 cavities? What real life scenario, what would you offer them to do?
Well, it depends on if the cavities are on adult teeth or baby teeth. So if the cavities are on baby teeth, then sometimes those are actually great teeth to work at remineralizing and getting the child into a more healthy state internally and externally so that they don't get cavities on their adult teeth. So sometimes baby teeth are great teeth to work with because you can be a little bit more risky with them. Like if the cavity's like medium-sized or whatever, you might be more likely, especially if the child is older, the tooth's going to fall out soon. So, you're more likely to be okay with some risk there, the risk of trying to remineralize it. Whereas if the cavity is on an adult tooth, then I don't recommend being risky at all because those teeth are going to be in the kid's mouth for the rest of their lives, and you don't want them to have large fillings or even root canals or anything like that. Like if they do have cavities on adult teeth, I usually recommend that if they're really, really small, then certainly work at remineralizing them, and that's no problem. But if they're not able to remineralize them, then I say just get them filled and then still focus on remineralizing so that they prevent further cavities in the future.
Yeah. The last question I have for you, and it's because I'm kind of a nerd, so I had to ask you this. But I went on your website and just doing some research for the show, and I was reading up on the matrix metalloproteinase, and it seems like when I was reading up on that, it seemed like it was both helpful and harmful at the same time, and I was wondering if that's a fair assessment. And can you explain that a little bit for the audience? Because I know it's like when you throw out these words and they seem like they have too many consonants and vowels behind them, people get a little bit confused. But explain what the matrix metalloproteinase is. And again, it seemed as though that it was helpful, but in large amounts it could be harmful to the teeth as well when it came to cavities. So I wanted to ask that question.
Okay. Well, matrix metalloproteinases, yes, you're right. Like anything in the body, it needs to be in balance because so many things, like too much of it, can be a bad thing. So so this is my analogy. You have a beautiful garden, and the gardener goes through and picks off the dead flowers so that the fresh flowers can bloom, and plucking off the dead flowers or the weeds and everything, like that's a very important function to keep the garden in bloom and looking beautiful and healthy. But so that's like the matrix metalloproteinases in teeth and anywhere in the body, like they're found throughout the body, but in teeth as well, and they're responsible for going around and like pruning the dead parts of the teeth, like getting rid of them. So that is good. Like, so let's just say you have you have some damage that occurs in a tooth because of, a cavity was trying to start or whatever. So that damage needs to be plucked away and cleaned up so that the tooth can be functioning in a healthy way. But now let's just say that the gardener has had a little too much to drink, or his boss is away or whatever, and he just starts pruning not only the dead flowers, but he starts pruning the live flowers and the plants and the shrubs, and soon the whole garden is destroyed. So what started as a healthy practice, a healthy act, actually ended up destroying the whole garden. And that's the same with matrix metalloproteinases. If there's too much of them and or not enough MMP inhibitors, matrix metalloproteinase inhibitors, then there's going to be damage that occurs. So instead of just plucking off the dead parts, the live parts, the healthy parts of the tooth are going to be destroyed as well. And that's where antioxidants come into play. Like I mentioned at the beginning, antioxidants are important for cavity prevention because free radicals will increase the matrix metalloproteinases, and antioxidants will behave like inhibitors of these MMPs. So that's an important systemic component to cavities that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds eerily similar to autoimmunity, when like the body attacks itself, but it's from the position of the MMPs. But it kind of sounds like the way you explain it, it sounds a little bit like autoimmunity, when the body
totally
is actually attacking itself. But
yeah, you know what's interesting? They used to think that it was bacterial MMPs that were causing problems, like gum disease and cavities, and they realized that it's the own body's MMPs. So you're right. It is like the body's destroying itself.
Yeah, it sounds the body's crazy and everything that's going on. But you've given me a lot to think about, especially if I go back to the dentist and they tell me that I have a cavity, which I haven't had any. So let me knock on wood here if anybody can hear that. But it's a lot for other people to think about as well, because I know a lot of times when you sit in the chair, when you're in the dentist chair, and they diagnose you with cavities, the first thing we want to do is set up that next appointment so we can go in and get them, get them to go in there and fill them. So it's a lot of, something to think about. Actually, one more question, because I know that someone's going to come back and ask this. Diet. What is the optimal diet? Because I've listened to podcasts even before I had one, and one of the things that stuck out with me was people who had been on a vegetarian diet. They were talking about the amount of cavities that they had. So nothing against my vegans out there. I love you all. Whatever you eat is fine with me. But is there some type of optimal diet that you want to be on when it comes to just looking out for your teeth and making sure that you're going to kind of guard against cavities?
I don't actually promote one particular diet. I'm not the type of person that's like, you must do this or you can't do this. Like I've truly seen people on a whole bunch of different diets have healthy teeth or arrest cavities. Like I said, I've seen homeless people. I mean, I don't know what they're eating, but they're not taking fancy supplements. Like, you don't have to do anything. But what you do have to do is make sure that your systemic health is good. So everyone's different. I mean, some people will thrive on a certain diet than others, and you got to find what you thrive on, and that's what's going to be best for your teeth.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I'm like, you're in Canada. We need more dentists like you here in the States. But I don't know. I don't know how people here would react to that. But you're definitely doing something that's very unique. And like I said, I wish that more dentists would catch on to this concept of having people to remineralize their cavities instead of the drill and fill method that's actually going on. I didn't want to keep you more than an hour. I never keep any of my guests more than an hour because I know we all have lives. But is there anything else that you'd like to add before I let you go?
Just like a quick thing about I see it so often that people get so stressed out from their cavities, or like if their kids have cavities, and I always encourage people not to be stressed out about it and to have fun with it, because stress will actually increase their cortisol, which has been shown to increase cavities as well. So it's really just have fun with it, and it's not, it doesn't have to be a scary thing.
Yeah, everybody's so filled with fear these days. Like, I know a lot of people who are afraid to go to the dentist, and I think that makes you susceptible to everything, because everything is fear-based now. It's like, hey, don't eat this. You can't eat that.
Totally. Yeah.
Don't think about this. You can't. It's weird, but we don't realize how much we're making ourselves vulnerable when we're so afraid of everything. Everybody's walking around on eggshells. But you are also available for consultations. I looked on your website and saw that. And give us your website. I have it on the show notes for those of you out there who are listening to go to her website. But give us your website real quick for the listeners out there who might be listening through iTunes or Stitcher.
Okay. It's Judene, DDS. So Judene is my first name, Judene, and then DDS, like the dentist thing, .com.
Okay. And then your book is called
How to Stop Cavities.
Yeah, How to Stop Cavities. Available on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Dr. Judene, thank you so much for being on. And this has, out of all my shows, I don't really get a chance to talk about a lot of this. And I know that's important, especially your oral health and how it kind of dictates how it actually manifests in the mouth. A lot of people think that your mouth is just so separate and have no idea that what's going on in your body is an indication of what's going on in your mouth. But thank you again for being on. This was a very thought-provoking show for me personally. So I don't know about the audience out there, but I know for me, I like learning new things, and this was something that I don't get to talk about often. So again, thanks for your time tonight.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Enjoy your night.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. All right. Like I said, very thought-provoking show for me. I know a lot of times dentists is one of the things that we dread going to. I love going to the dentist personally to get my teeth cleaned, but maybe some of you out there who you haven't been to the dentist in a while and you might have cavities, this is something for you to think about before you actually go about filling those cavities. You may want to wait, and like she said, with your kids as well, you may want to wait. A lot of times waiting can be the difference between spending more money and giving that over to the dentist, or keeping some money for yourself and just doing things naturally. And I'm a big advocate of doing things naturally. Wednesday's show is going to be with Dr. Scott Whitaker, who is a naturopathic doctor, and the title of his book is called Medicine. So we'll be here, same fat time, same fat channel. Thanks for listening. Peace and love, y'all. Good night.